might say is inevitable. In fact, war is already going on. Down in Europe, or specifically Ukraine and Russia. That one is a very major war that is taking place this instant as you are watching this video. But before this, other wars have been ignored. For example, Afghanistan. It didn't bring much attention. But Ukraine, it brought everybody to it. Putin's not even technically a dictator. And that other guy from Afghanistan is literally a dictator. So, how come some wars are more appealing than others? Number 1, global outreach. Now, World War I and World War II have a lot of things that people pay attention to. For example, D-Day and bombs and all that stuff. Hitler, well, that's because it affected the whole world. The whole world was on rations, and it was even more countries involved in it. Almost every single country, including Brazil, who sent so much of its military to Russia and other parts of Europe. By the way, the borders of Europe is a bit strange because guess what? Europe and Asia are not separated by a border. They're just separated by what every single person thinks. So depending on what you say, it could be a global war or a country war or a civil war to the smallest, or a rebellion that is the smallest type of war that I can think of. But World War I and World War II spread to a few sections of the world. Europe, Africa, Asia, especially the Pacific, and a tiny amount of Alaska, believe it or not. Yes, actually the Japanese made it onto a few Alaskan islands before they were pushed out by the Americans. So guess what? Yeah, some battles were fought on American soil. Woo, America! Best national security. Number 2, people's minds. World War I and World War II are only called world wars because of what they put into people's minds. The effect of Hitler was outrageous. The Holocaust, genocide, you're going to damn me, and many other things about Hitler made his war embedded into history and embedded into the minds of people. Only 4-year-olds would never hear of World War I and World War II. Meanwhile, World War I was known to the people at that time as the war to end all wars. So many films have been based upon it, and trench warfare was the basis of most of the types of fortifications that we use to this day. So it has an impact on not just the world, but our minds. Number 3, what it is. World War II, which is my favorite example if you can't tell, was about helping minorities. But this makes for a great tale. It makes for something that people can share. And because it was a global war, there's so many veterans. In fact, there's still World War II veterans still alive today. I'm sorry, World War I. Nobody alive at that time that's still alive. But all of that's nice and good. But the causes and what the war is about is even more important than the stories because, well, we fight in this war for things like freedom. But it also makes flaws, like the perfect novel character. The United States of America was trying to get rid of concentration camps. But inside, they can't help to create their own for the Japanese. They can't help but to create total war on 2 cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's just like It's just like what you would find in Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. Same for World War I, the Civil War, every single war that is embedded into people's minds. But the Civil War, I don't really count it. Even if I love it, it's only embedded into American people's minds. So global wars make the most amount of stories and the most amount of people to share those stories. So, and all of that, when you mix it together, you get a war that's really famous. But Ukraine is not anything to fit with any of these. And my final one is the most important one ever when it comes to story making, recounting, veterans, every single thing about it is global reach. This is more important than all of them. It facilitates everything. How it began. Every great story needs a beginning. Many stories have things like in the beginning or once upon a time to show what's happened before this war. And with Ukraine, tensions after the Soviet Union fell and Putin rose to power. He has been looking at all the former Soviet states, and we could see that he was planning to get them back. And then he started putting troops on Crimea and taking over Crimea from Ukraine. And it starts a great title. It starts a great beginning for the story of war. And really, the beginning affects everything else that is to come. War is not a great topic, as many people, war is not something that they like to talk about. Many people are being affected by war at this moment. But so was Afghanistan and Iran and the Gulf War. But we don't really think about those. We think about World War I, World War II, Ukraine. For those random psychopathic dictators out there, that is how you make a war that people will remember. But don't do that. Because above all of that, even the last one, war is decided by blood and killing. That is war. And even if there are many factors that go into creating a war, even if you know all these factors, you also have to know about the death, the suffering, the mass genocide and homicide. That is war. And with these causes, you can lay many people destitute. So war must be avoided forever. We must create a utopia, not a dystopia, but a utopia. Ending all wars. We need a war to truly end all wars. Maybe we can turn Ukraine into that. Maybe we can influence other countries into stopping from attacking each other, attacking itself, because of what war leaves behind. During the Civil War, William Tecumseh Sherman once said, "To see what war really is, one must see our tracks."